Constantly Seeking. Today we're talking about the movies that broke us. We have STEPH TOLEV. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And we're talking about a movie of your preference, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Now,
Yes.
why did you choose that movie?
Well, when you said relationships, I don't know why that was the first thing. Because I guess people, when you think relationships, they think of like love or whatever, like couples. But I don't know. This movie really changed me in the fact that like it really showed two insane people, like just two strangers meeting and having this like crazy relationship. And I didn't watch a lot of movies growing up as a kid, so and I don't love rom-coms the way everybody else does. So this was like the one I'm like, okay, this there's just so much happening in this movie the whole time that it's like I think it's a good choice.
Yeah, it's a great choice. And I feel like just listening to you, I'm like, maybe you're more sane than the rest of us when it comes to relationships just by avoiding rom coms.
Yeah, I think I've just been sad for so long, so I don't want to watch them. I watched a lot of comedies growing up, and then that was it. Like I didn't really watch. Like Love Actually was the one I watched a couple times, and then I was like just sad. I'm like, well, no one's ever gonna do that sign thing to me, and I'm like, what am I? And then I had a horrible breakup, so I was like, I don't need to watch that when I'm sad. I'll just watch something goofy like Airplane and be like, I everything's okay.
And I love that what you said, like relationships and love is not just about romantic love.
Yeah,
And this movie it does have such a great trope. It's like, a holiday movie. We're talking about Thanksgiving.
yep.
As I was watching it again, I was like, man, I remember living in New York and being stranded so many times. And
Mhm.
you really bond with the strangers around you because you're kind of in it together.
Yeah, and it's like it's just I love the way they take such a unlikable like both of them are kind of unlikable in their own way, and then just make them like put them in the situation where they have to become friends and they have to get through this stupid thing.
And what really stood out to me is like they were so desperate to get home.
Mhm.
I'm watching, I'm like, if they had just waited at the airport for like a few hours, they probably would have gotten
Oh,
home sooner.
yeah, the whole movie is insane because I'm like, you literally could have just waited for the next flight. Like they made such a big deal. I'm like, flights are happening all the time. Like I don't know why people would make that big of a deal.
And he's pretending like his wife is gonna be upset. Or I guess the character believed that and calling home like, honey, I'll be there by 6, and like 3 days
Yeah,
later he's home.
that actually, I never really thought of that too. Like, did he cheat before? Because why was like she was so worried about him not being home, and he was like, I have to get home. You know what it is? Like, I'm Canadian, so you guys make such a bigger deal about Thanksgiving than us. So it was insane. I'm like, is it that important to get back for Thanksgiving? Because we have a little dinner, but we don't make a huge like. I wouldn't travel to see my family for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Brazil, so my Thanksgiving experience is kind of like a tourist, like cultural
Yeah,
tourism. I had a roommate in New York right after college, and her family's from Pennsylvania, and they are really big on Thanksgiving, and I really felt like I got the American experience, like the Taylor Swift Americana version, because they're from the same
yeah.
town. Her parents are hunters, and like, it was the
Oh
grandma
wow.
playing the piano. Oh my God, it was like
Oh
really
my god,
Americana.
that's a scene from a movie. That's insane.
I know, and I remember going through a breakup the first time that I ever went to their house for Thanksgiving, and then her mom putting a blanket over me and, like, by the fireplace. It just
Oh
really felt
my
like
god, that's crazy.
I
Oh
know, I'm
my
like,
actual god.
I just survived in America, that's how I felt. It was a
Yeah,
very
you're like, "Is
interesting
this
experience.
America? I love it here."
Exactly, and now that I live in LA, and I have just adult friends who don't have family around also, we just do this Friendsgiving, which I love because it's just an excuse to eat a lot of food.
It is,
Um,
yeah. Yeah, Friendsgiving is a very fun thing. I one night, because especially in LA, like everyone has one, so there's like you can bop around like three or four. Yeah, one thing Friendsgiving, I got a little drunk, and by the time I got to the third one, I like made out with some guy, and I was like, "What am I doing? I'm so full." Like having any sort of love making or fooling around after like three, four helpings, it's disgusting.
Yes.
Like,
And
yeah.
also, like, let's be honest, not only it's like you don't feel great, but then you have to like, overnight your body's processing all those foods. I
Oh,
don't
you're
know
farting
if
nonstop.
yeah.
Turkey farts are so bad too. They're like a specific fart that it's like you know exactly what that smell is.
And I don't want to have to deal with that with a stranger and be like, I know I'm a lady, I have to go to the bathroom and take care of that. But also, I'm like, I don't want to be up all night just because I have some stranger in my bed. Go
No,
home.
and you know what? I want to end that. I've been doing a lot of jokes on stage now about ending this whole. I want to be a lady, not fart in front of men. We should be farting. They're farting. We should be farting. I'm absolutely sick of it. It's the amount of women that don't fart. Like, I'm talking like I get it in new relationships, but I'm talking to women 25, 30 years of marriage who refuse to fart in front of their husband. Like,
Wow.
that's a problem. Like, my stomach would be in knots.
Yeah, and it hurts. But I
It
also want to
hurts.
say, like, let's explore this. Like, if a man farts in front of me, I don't find that cute. Don't do that.
No,
That's not in front of me.
it's
I
not
think
cute. It's like
Americans do that.
it's a human body function. I'm like, I'm not. Of course, when you first start dating somebody, that's not what you want. But like, no, I'm farting.
I
I'm farting. I don't care.
I remember when I first moved to America and I went to school here. It was my like my crash course of American experiences. But I would be in the cafeteria with all these women, and then I would just hear these really loud burps that sounded like they were in a football game. And I remember being like so shocked. I'm like, oh my god, how can they do this in front of all of us? And
Yeah.
then I realized it was part of the culture. But the farting thing, like back to that, I'm like, I just haven't adapted that much. And I think personally, if a guy does that in front of me, I'll be like, I don't know. I have a good Thanksgiving story actually that has to do with farting since we are on the subject.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. Bring it up.
I dated this guy and he introduced me to his family at Thanksgiving. And I thought, okay, why not, right? This is going well. I'm going to meet the family. So the day before, we did mushrooms in my friend's tent. And apparently, I said something that made him vegan. I can't even remember what it was, but
I would love to. Please remember that.
yeah, apparently it was my fault. But the next day, Sane, we met his I guess family, extended family. So he was kind of raised by his grandparents. His mother was far away, in Colorado, not that far away. And then his aunt and uncle came with his cousins, and I will never forget. His grandparents were lovely people. We were gonna do some kind of like board games, and it was the day after Thanksgiving, so like casual food, whatever. And his uncle walks in like sweatpants, and the first thing he said to me is like, I didn't wear real clothes because I don't want to leave the house. And I was like, I don't, okay, like, nice to meet you.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
he
yeah.
proceeded the entire night to fart in front of everybody
Well,
for
that's
the
no. I mean, that's pushing it. That's pushing it. That's a bit much.
and at the end of it, I was like, that's it. Like, I can't be part of this family. I hope he
No,
never hears this because I don't want to feel like I'm like one of those super efficient people. But I'm like, I don't want my kids to grow up around that. That's crazy.
I mean, my family did fart on me nonstop. That's probably why I am like this. But maybe also some people are just gassy. I'm a gassy
I know.
gal. My dad always says he's always got one in the tank. Like if I called my dad right now on FaceTime, I guarantee you could fart. Like it's maybe we just have we're built different. I don't know. Us
Right.
Canadians are built different.
I also feel like that could be genetics for sure. The way you process foods. I mean, that's all that it
Yes,
is
some
really.
processing weird. Yeah, who knows? But I am proud.
But we got into like this great segue. But also talking about this movie again, it's like they become this really intimate friends very quickly from
Yes.
strangers at the airport. I don't think I would ever share a bed with somebody I just met at the airport like 30 minutes before.
No, no. It also this was back in what the it was film. When was it filmed? The 80s. Like this is a different time. This is a different
Yeah.
time when people were stuck. Because my grandma used to tell me stories too. When she was like, yeah, she's like, I would hitchhike and it was fine. I was like, what? Like, yeah, right. No, I don't even talk to people on the airplane. Speaking of farting, actually yesterday on my flight, somebody farted so badly the whole time. I literally at one point took my headphones out and I went, "Enough is enough! Like, please stop farting!" I was so pissed. I was like, it was right in my face, and I had my sweater all this the whole time. And I was like, I'm like, it was like I could see one or two slipping out every 5 minutes. The person was fucking farting, and I was losing my goddamn mind. Might have
Oh,
been a kid in front of me, but I don't care. I was so pissed. But I'm like, yeah, I don't talk to anybody there on the planes because you sometimes you sit down and like, and I fly every fucking weekend, so you sit down and right away, if you even glance, you get the whole, "How are you? Busy day at the airport." I'm like, no, 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 headphones in. Even if they're not even on, AirPods are in because I'm like, I can't do the 3 hour like, and like that character that John Candy plays is such. It's like you know that character so well. You immediately are like, oh, I've met this person. They exist. They will talk to anybody anytime about anything. And Steve Martin being that like exact opposite, like, no, please don't. And then them becoming, yeah, it's also such a funny movie.
It really is. And
Yeah,
I remember, to your point, like some part of the movie, the Steve Martin character is like, I was reading the barf bag so I could avoid you. Didn't you
yeah,
realize
yeah.
that? Nobody wants to read the barf bag,
Yeah, I love
and
how they overcome that too, where like they become such good friends. Like you get in a good like a fight with a good friend, and then you're like, this is the end of it. But they just you completely glazed over it and move on, like kind of like it didn't happen. Like so, they had that huge blowout, and then immediately we're back to like, okay, we're still in this kind of thing together.
yeah, and I feel like what I took away from that film looking back is like they were so trying to be this person, right? He was a business guy who would only fly in like first class, and the other guy was like the shower ring salesman, which is like so random, who was like everybody's buddy. And by the end, you realize that they were not happy in their own like kind of life kind of thing.
Yeah,
The shower ring guy is like, this is my legacy. What? We found out he doesn't really have a family. And then the Steve Martin guy is like, whoa, I was having no fun. Again, his wife didn't seem concerned. She was like, "Okay, I guess the flights are canceled. I see you when I see you."
yeah, yeah. And
I'm like,
yeah,
"Why?"
they kept just showing
Yeah.
like weird like images of her just like looking out the window depressed. I'm like, that was a really weird role. A lot of those '80s movies, they gave women horrendous roles.
Oh
They
my
were just
god.
the wives that had like three lines. They'd be like, "It's okay, where are you? I miss you." Like it was so fucking stupid. But
That was
yeah,
she did the whole film. That's all. And then
he
she
didn't talk
talked to the
once.
kids. She was
No,
like, "Oh, daddy's coming. Shh, it's
yeah.
daddy on the phone." That's it.
Yeah, no, that whole that character of hers was, I feel bad for that actress because that was a horrendous role. But I love the reveal at the end too, when John Candy has like nothing and his wife is dead. Like that's such a good reveal because you don't you know something's off going through, but then like every time that scene makes me bawl my eyes out when Steve Martin's on the train and he's like just the flashbacks and then I was like he's alone and I'm like ugh. And then they have that really cheesy like train going like super fast, like they were like the rewinding thing. I'm like, didn't need that. And then when he goes and sees him, I'm like that's. And then I love when at the end when the wife, that's like her big moment where like John Candy comes, he's like he brings him back dinner, and the wife looks at him and like, oh, there's no way you could have fucked that guy. Like that it was like the huge like reveal of her being like, oh, thank God, that's who you were with. Like,
Maybe he was a cheater and that was never brought about because like you're
yeah,
right. Like she does seem really like reassured. Okay, you were with anybody but this guy.
but it's also like he borderline cheated on her with that guy. Like they got to like what second base in the bed, like that there was like, excluded there.
Yeah, that was fun. It's like, "Why did you kiss my ear?" And that scene was really funny because
That's
now
so
I would like to think in a more evolved social time where like it's acceptable for men to cry and kiss and hug and
yeah,
whatever. But they literally woke up hugging each other and freaked out and started to do like, "Yeah, we're men, we're
yeah.
fine."
That scene still does hold up though because they weren't like transphobic or
Right.
like anything about it. They weren't like you know what I mean. Like I'm thinking like of the scene that does not hold up in the movie Ace Ventura when he like finds out Finkel's Einhorn and like uses the plunger. I'm like, ooh, that scene doesn't hold up anymore. That
I
scene is not good. But this one, they still were like, they like joked about it, but they didn't do it in a way where it was like, ew, fuck you, it's disgusting. They were kind of like, oh, the sports game. Ooh, it's those bears. Bears are good. Bears are good. Yeah, like they just made it more of like a kind of hacky joke about it instead of making it like negative.
Yeah, and then at the end when they fall in love with each other, basically what happens, right? When you have this romantic like scene of flashbacks of all the adventures they went on together, and then Steve Martin runs out of the train and comes after him, or the bus or whatever it was by that point. But I'm like, oh, it was the subway, yeah, yeah. And I was like, that's amazing because it's really that realization, like, oh, I made a friend, and like I am in love with this person in a way that is platonic and friend
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. And
and
it's like,
somehow they've been transformed.
yeah, like when you have that, like I had, I went to Dubai with a comedian that I knew, but not like crazy well. And it was like a crazy 10 days. And me and him bonded in a way where I'm like, I love this man now just cause as a friend, but just cause like we had such an insane, when you get put in an insane situation like that and you're with like one or two other people and you just bond over like the crazy place you've been put into. Yeah. It was like, yeah, Hamid Weinberg, me and him now are like, we'll be friends for life because of that trip. Just getting put in somewhere.
So you mentioned you didn't go home for Thanksgiving, but do you like do that for the holidays, like the Christmas and New Year's or
I
whatever you
yeah,
celebrate?
yeah, I'll be doing. I stopped going home for Christmas because stress. I live in LA now. My parents are in Toronto, and it's like it's so cold. It's so
Mhm.
fucking cold. Like I'm in Calgary right now, and I'm freezing. I did not know how cold it was. I did not dress accordingly. Um, but yeah, the holidays are stressful. And the older I get, the more I'm like, "Eh, I don't need to go. My sister's having a baby literally any minute now, so I'll have to go home for Christmas now. I was liking my Christmases in LA. Have you stayed in LA?
Yeah.
It's nice.
I do. Yeah, my mom, like my family is all in Brazil. So, but the thing is, like the holidays in Brazil are an insane time. It's almost like carnival. Everybody's there partying. Like the
Oh,
hotel
really?
rooms there, like $300 go to like 5,000. I'm like, I'm not
Oh
gonna
my
pay this much money to like literally like
no,
be there for a day or two. So,
no.
tickets are like I'm already like monitoring tickets, and this week they just went up exponentially, like over $500 just this week. So,
No.
the more you look at that, I'm like, is it even worth it? And then I get there, my family, like my brothers are with their families and their wives' families. And then, my sister now lives in a different state. So my mom is in a different one. So I'm like, okay, we all get into one, but then I don't get to see my brothers and their families. So it just becomes so troublesome. And what
Yes.
I started doing is like, I started going home for kind of Easter. Not that I'm religious at all, but I think that's a time where they have some time off, but no one is
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
kind of travel plans.
That's a good idea.
So yeah, so we kind of just hang out then, and it's more chill. There's nothing. Carnival just ended. Nobody's like no tourist is going to Brazil to
Yeah, yeah,
party.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So it helps. I think like that's been more helpful. But it does have the like that sensation of like sadness I get too, because like I don't have
Yeah,
family here.
yeah, but the first year I think was kind of sad, but then I live in East Hollywood and it took me 22 minutes to drive to the beach. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? That's how long it's supposed to take me to get to the fucking beach? Because when you move to LA, all my friends can like, you're at the beach every weekend. I go, oh, you mean my whole day? Like if you go to the beach on a Sunday, I literally am leaving my house at I don't know, 10 a.m. I get back at 9 p.m. Like it's like no one realizes the parking, the traffic. It's like so. I was like so every day over the holidays, I would get in my car and I'd drive down and I'd go for a jog on the beach and then I'll swim. I'm like swimming like Christmas Eve. I'm like this is the best. But now, yeah, this year I'll be home and then I work on New Year's, so I'm never home on New Year's. But
Well, but this year you have a motivation, right? Your sister's having a baby. That's like
or
a
maybe I think I'm starting to see somebody right now, so I think we're talking.
ooh.
It's very, very, very quick, so I don't want to get too ahead of myself here. But yeah,
No, I hear you. And this time of the year for dating is always like stressful because the holidays are approaching. So you're
Mm,
like every casual like that. Like I have one of my best friends getting married next month, and I've been kind of saying someone too, but I'm like, do I bring it to the wedding? Like, are we like, is
yeah,
that like
yeah,
a,
yeah.
I don't know. Like, what
Bring
is
the
that?
wedding. Bring the wedding. It's fun having something. Yeah, that's why I was like, are we doing Christmas? Like, I did Christmas with my ex last year, and I regret it because it was like weird. Also with their
Why
ex
was
mom,
it weird?
they're Mormons.
Oh, okay. I definitely want to hear that. How did you end up dating a Mormon?
Salt Lake City, but I don't want. I don't like him, so I don't want to get into it. But yeah, the guy, not a Mormon, Christian, not a Mormon, and I'm not religious, so it's very weird to like. We've been talking a lot, and then he mentioned that he was Christian. I was like, well, I'm an atheist. I don't know how that works. Does that work? I don't. We'll see. We'll see. Because yeah, I've had a lot of really. That's why again I don't watch a lot of like lovey-dovey movies because I'm like usually I've been single for a long time. Like it was like 8 years when I moved the whole LA. I was just like dating, and I was nothing was ever really official with anybody. So it was kind of like 8 years of hell. And as you know, dating in Los Angeles is I don't care what anyone says. It's the worst fucking place on the planet Earth to date. I don't give a fuck. I every time I go to another city, I go on Tinder. I'm I'm a hot piece. Men are messaging me. They're please can I take you out for drinks. Oh my god, I love to meet you. I take you for dinner, whatever. LA, no one talks to you, or if they do, they're like, come to my house right fucking now and suck my dick. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, who's like the amount of men who immediately ask you to go to their house at like midnight? I'm like, someone's saying yes to this because they wouldn't keep asking, and that
That
scares me.
is so true. That is
It's
so
terrifying.
true. And I feel like part of the pandemic like ruined dating for us in a way because people were doing that. And I would tell my friends, I'm like, why are you having a stranger in your house? Like you don't know who these people are. Why are you going to a stranger's house? So I feel like that made the dating scene in LA even worse.
Remorse,
My
yep.
complaint about I did it in New York, that was the only other American city I was in, and I was married at 20. So I was
You
like,
should.
I'm gonna be together forever. And it didn't work out like that. And then I went dating and it was like, what is dating? Like, I don't get it. And it was a zoo. So New York wasn't any better than here, but at least in New York, like the description you're saying of these other cities, like men are nice. they're like, let's go out, let's grab a drink, tell me about your life. Like, I have a job, like I have a
Yeah,
career, you know. So like it feels like professional people at least meeting and
yeah.
maybe becoming friends in the future if it doesn't work out. But in LA, it's like how many dates I've been on. I just started the online dating thing this year. I
Oh
had an
boy.
Oh yeah, I dated this crazy Mexican dude who saw the Hinge app on my phone while we were still seeing each other. He was like, "You're cheating," and I'm like, "You're not my boyfriend. Like, you had a chance to be my boyfriend."
Oh
So it
god.
became a whole thing, and I thought, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna online date, and I start, after I broke up with him, obviously.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
now I've like been on this journey, and it's like a lot of guys who show up and put their jobs on there that don't longer have those jobs. They're like, "Oh, I've been laid off of this. I no longer do that." And I was like, "Okay, you do understand you're like misrepresenting yourself." And then I
Yeah.
have a lot of guys who are like, "Let's go pickleball and place like a walk on the beach." I'm like, "I'm not gonna drive 30 minutes for a walk on
No,
the beach,
no,
bro."
no.
Like,
Sorry. That's
yeah,
what's so funny about LA. It's like I was only having my distance like 10 like miles away because I'm like, I don't want to be it's too much traffic.
yeah.
Like I was trying to talk to this guy from Santa Clarita. I'm like, it's simply too far away. Like I don't know what to tell you. But it's funny because like I posted a clip on my Instagram. You can watch it if you're listening. About this Hinge conversation I had where a guy
Oh my god.
bluntly. Did you see that clip? A
No,
guy.
you gotta tell
Oh,
me.
oh my god! Oh my god! A guy. I'll read it. I'll read this conversation.
I
This is
love
a
it.
real. This is a real. This is how bad dating is, and this is what I keep saying. I'm like, this is what I'm talking about. How bad dating is. Okay, so this is a real conversation I had with a man named Joel. I'm saying his full name. So it opens with he's a dog. I have a dog. So I see that he's a dog. So I go, your dog's so cute. He goes, I know. Super sad. She recently passed away, and it was my fault.
Oh my god, what?
This is the opening to the conversation. I go, "What the fuck do you mean it was your fucking fault?" Like I'm like freaking out. 24 hours go by. I'm like, "What's this motherfucker gonna say?" He literally writes, and I'm literally reading this verbatim. I'm not making this up. I took her on a hike and she overheated. I pushed her too hard and didn't give her water until it was too late. I had to carry her 3 miles back down the trail. She died on the way. I'm sorry. What the fuck are you talking? And the worst part is, like, it's so insane, but I accidentally hearted it and I can't get it off. Like, if you heart on Hinge, it doesn't. And I'm like, ah! Anyways, I like posted that clip, and his friend messaged me, DM me, going, "Hey, yeah, Joel like has this weird thing happening right now where he's like lighting up cigarettes and like Whole Foods and doing weird shit without knowing." I'm like, okay, fine. If something's wrong with him, go get his fucking dog. If somebody's in a mental place where they're not cognizant, whatever that word is, of their surroundings, they're not able to like act like a civilized human, go take the fucking dog. The man killed his dog. Like, it's crazy.
Honestly, that sounds really
Open your mind.
intentional. Like, I
Open
don't
it up.
know Joel, but who goes on a 6-hour hike, 6 miles, right? 3 miles there, 3 miles back, without any water for himself? Like, sounds like that was intentional beyond
Something's
the
up.
dog,
Something's up there. Something's up. It's very
right?
upsetting. It's that, or it's like I'll just get someone being like, and because now people recognize me, um, which I hate on online. I deleted all my apps last night. Like I deleted my full accounts because I can't do this anymore. But it's like they message me being like, "Oh, let me guess, you're just trying to get more fucking material. You think you're fucking?" I'm like,
Oh.
"No, I'm trying to find a boyfriend. Actually, I'm actually not on here for material. I simply want to get laid. I don't know what to tell you.
But thank you so much. Now I have some more. You know what I mean? It's like, keep
Like
it
I'll
up.
get some from you, but like Jesus Christ,
I've
yeah.
gotten a lot of people like, "Oh, you clearly just want more Instagram followers." Or my favorite is, "Oh, this is clearly a scam. You're a bot." Or my favorite was, "Oh, if you're here, there's no hope for us." And I'm like, "What?" Like,
I mean, I've
it's
never
so
gotten any of
bizarre.
those. No, it's hell. It's literally hell, and I'm, like, so glad that it felt really empowering. Like, literally last night in bed, I, like I 'cause I deleted them off my phone, but then I'm like, "No, I need to delete the full account. I don't want people to see me on there anymore." And I was also like, "Are you on Raya?"
No, I've tried Raya in the past, and it was exactly what you said. No one talks to anybody.
Well, I can't get on. I can't get on, and it's becoming an issue now. I'm getting so mad. I've emailed them so many times with my follower account. I'm like, "I don't know
Why?
why they won't
Yeah.
let me on." I have so many friend passes, and I'm like, I have more followers than half the people on that fucking thing. So what does that have to do with? Maybe someone. I think I bullied somebody who works there.
Mm.
I'm convinced because I'm like, I did something.
You like it's personal. They're after me.
They are. They're after me because it doesn't make any sense. Get me on Raya. I want to have sex with John
But
Hamm. That's it. It's simple stuff.
or Joe Mayer. I mean, it's like he's also there
Oh, I
apparently.
heard he's on there. I know. God.
But I will say, like, I tried that for 6 months or something. Like, I don't like these because Raya at the time, like many years ago, was free and it was like this whole thing. But now it's just like another subscription, like
Oh, you have to pay
app.
for it. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like, I don't wanna I tried for a minute because people were like, "It's great," and I have friends who are male friends who have made great friends
Of
on
course.
Raya, who then brought them to our events and our dinner parties, and I love them, and I thought, "Whoa, you're making amazing friends on Raya. I should go on there and make friends." And then I go on there and I'm like, I maybe talked to like 2 people in like a year.
Yeah.
And
No.
I'm
That's
like, "What?" And they were lived in New York, they didn't even live here, and I'm like, "Why this is
why am I?
kind of like yeah, like, it's beyond the point. So it just
It's
became, like, this whole thing.
they're all the apps now. I think it's literally a little video game that we play. We go on, we're like ding, 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 swiping away, and like the amount of people that don't want any sort of relationship on there. It's like mostly people wanting just to get laid, but like, or they're not upfront about that, or it's just like so much texting and not meeting. Like I can't. It's too much.
But also, like you said, right, people are recognizing you now, like, do you get any DMs of guys just being like, "Hey."
Oh yeah, yeah. I accidentally opened a horrendous dick pic this morning. First thing my eyes saw, and it was gray. I want to say the color of the penis was gray. And I'm like, do I call a doctor or do I let the dick fall off? Because at this point, I was like, it was so scary. I was like, my fault because it said image blurred. But sometimes people post things like I don't know what it. Anyways, my DMs right now are pretty. Yeah, they're pretty swarmed. And I don't love it because it's like it's weird. And then I had this one guy, I don't know what happened, but he's like, "When do you come to New York or something?" I was like, "Oh, I have a show, blah blah blah." And then he took that to me being like, I was on my Twitter being like, "Okay, are we still going out when you come to New York?" I'm like, "Are we still going out? What the fuck?" I said, "Come to my show." Come to my show doesn't mean I'm gonna suck your ass. Like, come to my fucking show. Like, I don't know. It's really weird. And I'm realizing now, like, I've had sex with a couple fans. Huge mistake.
Really? I wanna
You,
hear more about that because
oh
that sounds like a win-win for you. They
no, I
already
thought
all
so.
about you.
No, that's what I thought because I thought a lot of male comics do it, and they're like, "It's great," and a lot of male comics have met their wives through these fucking fans. But I've had the opposite where it's like they get very, very clingy very fast, and they come on too strong, and they like I don't know, and I'm like, I wasn't looking for anything. Like I'm not gonna date somebody who doesn't live in my fucking city. It's psychotic. I did that before. Salt Lake City didn't work, so I'm like, you need to date somebody who's yeah, it's too much. And then they quote my jokes to me and they know too much. Like I went on a date recently and the guy was like quoting things. He's like, "You still fucking that pilot?" And I was like, "What?" And I'm like, "Are you listening to my podcast?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah." And I was like, um and I didn't even know what to say. It was like kind of thrown off. I was like, so I don't love like and this guy I'm talking to now, not a fan. He saw me live randomly. And then I went up to him after the show, him and his uncle, I went up and talked to him weirdly, and then that's how that happened, but I'm like, it's like he had no idea who I was. I love that. He'd never seen me before, no I think he said he saw me on Netflix and thought I was funny, but he wasn't like stalking me down, like whatever. So he knew I was a comedian, and then he saw me live and like was attracted to me, whatever. So I was like, that's a nice way, but otherwise they know too much. They know
Right.
way too much. Like
And that's part
every
of having
yeah.
these, yeah. Like when you talk about your life, especially on your act, because like they feel, I mean, of course, some things are based in reality, but some things are just jokes.
So, yeah, most of my things are reality, so I think people and I made the mistake of, like, going on a podcast and talking really openly about some stuff that I don't normally talk about, and guys are like, "You squirt," like, in my DMs, I'm like, "I've made a huge mistake. Huge mistake." Yeah. Some things you should keep for yourself. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But this DM world, like, really does work for men. I will say this, like, that ex-Mexican dude I dated, like, he would complain about me having the Hinge on the phone, but I'm like, "Dude, you behave like Instagram is a fucking dating app. You think I
Mhm.
don't see you liking every naked photo? You think I don't see you commenting on all, like, your friends' bikinis, whatever?" And
Oh,
he's
yeah.
like, "Well," you know what he said to me? "They're just my friends. I'm just supporting them, okay? That's all. Ugh, you're so jealous because the gaslighting thing." And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
"Oh, okay." I'm like, so meanwhile, he's like, "Oh, you posted a bikini photo. It's so sad. It feels like you're just looking for attention." And I thought,
I
this is
hate
how, And I'm like, this is how we started talking. Like you would
Yeah,
comment on
you
every
start
one
yeah,
of them. So then I
yeah.
went on his page and I'm like, let me just check this out because he would never give me access to his DMs. So I
Uh-huh.
went and looked at it and I was like, oh my God, he's commenting on all these random chicks,
Mhm,
bikini photos,
mhm.
topless shots, like all that. And they are responding, and there's little smiley faces back and forth and hearts. And I'm like, I said, dude, you think I don't look at that shit? I said, okay, here's a challenge. Show me your phone.
Mhm.
Let's see. Let's see. If there's any conversations there that are, deemed inappropriate for somebody, like you said, who is in
Yep,
an exclusive, non-committed relationship.
yep,
Because I
and you
have the
said
app, but you can look at all my messages.
yeah.
I'm not meeting up with anybody.
Oh my god. This is how
And
okay, this is how if you this is like, what I've realized, if you really wanna see what a guy's looking at, you go into their Instagram,
okay, teach me.
you 'cause you don't have to go to their DMs, and you just go to what their search is, like, what their explore page is. That's how you see a person. So my explore page is a bunch of comedians, Carrot Top, comedian. Oh, what's that butt one? Oh, it's probably tattoo.
Beyonce.
Yeah, a lot of stand-up clips. What do we got here? Weird dancing videos. No naked men. Do you see a single topless man in my fucking thing? Not one man,
No.
not a lot of
But I
dog
see the
videos.
dog.
Dog, an ice cream video. You go into that. So that's how my ex. The biggest. It was a big red flag right away. I was like, God, you're following a lot of women. And then I was like, I looked through. I'm like, who are all these women? He goes, oh, all my exes. He followed every woman he had a one night stand with or his exes. And I was like, I'm sorry, a one night stand. I go, first of all, I'd be following a lot more people if I just fucking had, I'd be following thousands. No, I'm kidding. But it was like, and then I one day got down a spiral. And I knew this one girl was his ex, and I clicked on her page, and we just became official, and he liked a photo of her wearing like a thong bikini on the beach, and like commented like fire, and I was like, I'm breaking up with you, and I was like, it's crazy to even look at that, but I'm like, if you're in a committed relationship with somebody, you cannot. I mean, I don't know. It's just like it's a turn off. Like if I was liking my ex photos and going, "Wow, you're fucking ooh, miss that dick," like it's crazy. It's fucking crazy.
Oh yeah. And it's controversial, obviously. People say different things about it. And where's the line, right? But I do see a lot of dudes married in relationships, like commenting, seeing every story and all that stuff. And it makes me wonder, like, are they happy in their relationships, or are they just my
There's one oh,
friends?
I could get a guy divorced right now. There's a man who's been DMing me. I like so he DM'd me so much, and I was like, like fire emoji on my outfits, or God, you look good today, or oh, when's your show in Michigan? 3 hours away, easy drive. Let me know when that's coming up. Blah 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 blah. The other day, he said something kind of creepy about my outfit. He's like, wow, you look fucking stunning today. And I'm like, let me see this guy. So his Instagram account's closed, and I go, let's peek to the Facebook. So go to his Facebook page. His photo, his small photo, was just him and his son. His cover photo is his wife, is him and his three kids. And I go, hmm. So it says married to his wife. I click on his wife's profile. His wife's Facebook is only him. Her and him, her and him. I love my husband. Fun week with my husband. And I'm like, I don't want. I'm not a fucking homewrecker. I would obviously not even. I've never even opened his messages. I've never even glanced. It still says that I've never replied to them. It's like in my like other DMs, and I was like, this poor fucking woman. Like she is, and also if he's DMing me like that, oh god, he's DMing
Yeah.
so many people. So I'm like, she's posting how much she loves him and she loves the family. Fun weekend away, boys are playing football. I love my whole family, and I'm like, this is fucking sick. Like that makes me like, that's why I'm like, I don't know how. I also because my ex was so horrendous. I have a really hard time trusting men now. So it's like my trust has been. It's very hard to get that back. And I'm like, and then this happens. Then it's just nonstop this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like
And
I don't know.
I listen to that and it makes me think murder, because that woman, when she finds out, she is going to snap and literally kill him. Like I all these like documentaries and all these like reality shows about like families killing each other always starts like that. I love them, they're amazing, and then all of a sudden, like, where's the body?
Yep. No, and it's just like, and then yeah, I think my ex cheated on me too, so I'm like, that makes me like fucking sick. It makes me feel insane, but I'm like, it's really hard to get that trust back,
No, I
especially when
get it.
because social media is like so accessible to do all this stuff. Like back in the like the 60s, you want to cheat? You're walking, you're getting on the horse and buggy, and you're like, all right, let's go to Marjorie's house. And I was like, hey, he's going to Marjorie's house. Like it's like so obvious, but now it's like you can be in a full relationship with somebody else and just have a whole. Excuse me, I'm having an allergy attack right now. I need to take some pills. Um, I have
No, I get it.
I have hives all the time, so we gotta pill it up.
No, I get it. And, when I went through that, the bikini guy I just mentioned, it took me a long time to really even feel like I could trust myself because I'm like, how did I not see these signs? Or did
Oh,
I see them
oh
and
yeah,
ignore them? And then it
that's the
becomes,
thing too. Yeah, I
why
think
did I ignore them?
as women, I think too, especially because dating in LA is so bad that we get one little glimpse of a guy that kind of like likes us, and we're like, oh, okay, and then like the amount of red flags with my ex is so fucking insane. I was like, how? Like I sit back and I'm like, am I? Who was I? I feel like I've grown so much in the last like 10 months, being like, I don't even know what the fuck I was thinking. Like the immediate
Mhm.
liking the girlfriends, he told me something crazy on our first date that I was like, "Oh, I should never talk to this man again." Like it was like all this shit where I was like calling his ex
That
mother
happened to me with
crazy.
this guy too.
Oh my
On
god,
our
I'm like
first, what he calls non-date, although it was a full date in his
on
mind,
date. Okay.
mid-pandemic, everything shut down. I'm like, his phone is blowing up. His phone is blowing up because it's interfering with the sound system in the house, so we could hear it. We were outside in the garden because there was no restaurants and any of that. And we work in the same business. We had mutual friends. It wasn't like a complete stranger.
Uh-huh.
So I felt like, sure, we can sit in your yard outside, 6 feet, and like
Yeah.
have a beer and a taco or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And girl, out of the sudden, this woman storms into his house screaming in Spanish like it's fucking Vicky Cristina Barcelona up in there. And she looks at me, she goes, "You leave right now." And I'm like, whoa. She starts hitting him in the face with a purse. Okay, that looked like a Chanel, but let me tell you, it wasn't because that shit broke on his face. And I'll never
Oh.
forget the sound of the metal just going ding, 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 ding on the floor. I was like, I'm out. I go all the way out, but like his house was like 2 floors.
Oh
So the kitchen was downstairs where my stuff
my.
was. And somebody locked the door, so I couldn't get in to get my stuff to leave. So my car keys are like in the house. So I had to go,
Uh,
I'm like, oh shit, I have to go back through this to get into the house through the back to be able to get my stuff and leave. And I was like, excuse me, guys, I just want to get my stuff. And he turns around and his face is covered in blood. Okay. She hit him so
oh
much, it broke
my.
something in his eye. He was blinded for like 2 weeks.
Oh my
And
god.
yeah, and then I just hear her screaming, crying, "Call 911." I'm like, "My shit's in the house." And I'm like, "I'm not calling 911. Like, I
No,
don't want to
you're
be
getting the hell
involved
out of
in this."
there.
So
No,
I
you're
as soon as she rushed him to the bathroom, "Oh, honey, I love you. I'm sorry." I'm like, "No." I got into the car. I called my friend from New York. We were laughing. We were dying laughing for the last hour until I got home.
is
And I
the
never
worst
saw
first
him
date of
for
the
like a year. I was like, "I'm done." Next day, he's like, "Let me explain. It's not what you think."
No,
And I'm like,
no, it's exactly what you think.
yeah, and then when the breakup
It's
happened with us, it was exactly the same. He, like, ignored me, like, didn't refuse to have an adult conversation. He was already seeing other people when he was pretending to still be in a
mhm,
relationship, and
mhm.
now that I look back at that, and I was like, "That's exactly what he did." He
Yep.
invited me to, like he spent by the way, by the time I said yes to going on this, like, "Let's go have a taco and a beer," it's been a year of him trying to get me to, like, meet with him. So this
That's
whole thing, I
crazy.
mean, 2 years in, this man spent trying to go take me on one date. So it's exactly what you said. By then, I was like, oh, he really must like me. He really must care. But
Mhm.
no, he was watching the social media. He was trying to find out what I liked and what I wanted. And then he pretended to be that. And it
Yep.
was so damaging to realize later, oh, this is all fake.
Yep. And it's like that's one huge problem with social media and being like in the public eye and posting all this stuff. They know too much about you, and it like gets used against you because the ex he knew. I guess he'd heard how I'm like I was in like a really desperate phase too, where I'm like I just want a boyfriend so badly, and then I guess I openly talk about that a lot on my podcast. I was like lonely. I'm like, and then it just like, and now I'm like, no, I'm feeling like much better now
Yeah,
though,
and
like
I'm
going
not sure
forward. I'm
how
like,
like it's working for you, but for me now, like in the aftermath of that relationship, right? I've seen a few people and they've been great guys. Like I haven't, knock on wood, met another psychopath
mhm.
yet, but it's LA, so it's only a matter
Yeah,
of
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah.
Um So the guy right after him that I did it, like I'm still friends with him. I met his friends and
That's
they're
nice.
awesome
Yeah,
people.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
still friends with his friends.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
sometimes I'm like, oh, it's such a shame because he really was cute and fun and all those things, and we seemed compatible. But people are on their journey, and so that happened. But I wasn't really emotionally ready because that guy was ready. Like, let me show up to your house and build your things and hang your pictures and do all that stuff. And I was like, this is a lot. I don't know.
Like, this is a lot. This is too much.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
then, from there I went on casual dates until this last person that I've been seeing for like a month. And that's like, but part of me has so much difficulty letting myself get to that, like, oh my God, I'm falling in love with you because of that
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I'm usually like that, but there's something about this guy I'm talking to, and we're both being a little much. We're both being like crazy.
In what way?
Like we've only technically met at my show for like 5 minutes, and then he slips into my DMs, and we have now been FaceTiming every day for 3, 4 hours a
But
day.
that's a good sign.
No, it's good. No, no, it is a good sign. But we're both like the way we're talking about the future, where we're like, we haven't. So I'm flying to see him this weekend. Actually, I fly in 2 days to see him in Nashville. So he's in like the say he's like an actor, musician. He's very talented, which is rare for me to like somebody with any sort of talent or humor. He's very funny, and but both of us are like coming in hot. Like we're both on the same level of crazy. We're like, okay, so Thanksgiving. I'm like, we haven't even fucked yet. Like we have to fuck. We have to fucking kiss. We have to fuck to see what the
Part.
hell like. But I'm like, we've learned like that's one great thing about like this new technology. Like we've literally FaceTime, and I'm not even exaggerating, for sometimes 5 hours a day. And so we're like just like talking, and like we know so much about each other. So you have this like emotional connection now before you get the physical, which is like it's good to get that. And I'm like, yeah, it's very important. So I'm just like, but I'm like nervous now to meet him. So I'm like, been like working out crazy at the gym. I'm like, I don't want, and I like show it to my body. I'm like, hello, I have a gut, and I'm telling him everything. I'm hairy. I have a gut. I fart. Like I'm telling him everything. So I'm like, I don't want to go into this and it'd be like, oh, you're not who you thought you were. But I was like, no, we've been FaceTime fucking, which is kind of hot.
I mean, just looking how you light up, just telling the story is great because from
Oh
all the
yeah.
therapists I've interviewed in this podcast and all the people in very secure, like happy relationships, that's exactly what they describe. It moves very fast. Once you
Okay.
meet somebody who is compatible, like it feels like it's moving very fast.
Okay.
And
Then
it's
that's
not
good
a
to hear. Yeah.
yeah, and it's not about the fireworks or any of that. And I think what you're describing is that you guys, for being apart, have had this time to get to know each other at a different
Mhm.
level without the whole hormonal, like
Yeah.
thing, oh, the pheromones and the way you smell and like all that stuff, which always play a part, of course. It has to be compatible in that way as well. But
Mhm.
we've all been in those relationships where the sex is amazing, but there's nothing else there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of those. Yeah, and I judging by our FaceTime fucking, I'm not concerned on that front.
Well, maybe he has sent you a dick pic that wasn't gray and ashy and weird. And then you
Oh
check the
no,
goods.
it's probably the best dick pic I've ever gotten in my life. Because when you like
Whoa,
start
that's
talking to
good.
somebody where you're like everything was so good, and I was like something's got to be up. I'm like, why is he single? I'm like, does he have a micro penis? Which I'm not shaming. I feel really bad for guys with micro penises, but I was like, oh man, maybe it's small and weird. Sends me a photo. Not small, not weird. I was like, okay, this might be my husband. I might be marrying. That could be the penis I see for the rest of my life. That could most certainly be it.
See, that's a good sign. I feel like at least you're content with that. I think that's important.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, I mean, some people are more sexual than others. And funny enough, my sister married a guy with a micro penis. And this is such a lovely story because she was a born again virgin. I don't know if you've ever heard of this.
No.
So I'm pretty sure my sister doesn't listen to this podcast, so I'm gonna totally dish. But it's like we were Catholic, we were raised Catholic just culturally by growing up in Brazil. My dad was Jewish, but we never really did anything with that. Um, and schools in Brazil are the best ones are Catholic schools. So it's in the culture, it's ingrained in the education somehow. And so my sister one day decided to be a born again. And we were shocked because she was always very like at 18, she's like, I'm gonna get married, I'm gonna have kids. And she was like, hiding and running away and like sleeping over boyfriends' houses. So we knew she was gonna be like a teenage mom or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And She didn't. Actually, she still not have had a child. She's been married and divorced twice now. But she's like decided one day she was going to be a born again. And we thought, well, okay, this is extreme. My sister's always been very committed, and I really wish I was more committed like that.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm going to do this. And she did. And she loved it. And then in the church, apparently you're supposed to pray together. And then Jesus tells you who your person is supposed to be or something like that, which to me sounds
Okay.
insane. So the first guy she prayed with, she's like, this is the guy. But then they slept together beforehand, which is a frowned upon. And then the church was like, no, he's from the devil. He's tempting you. You're not supposed to do that. She's like, oh, okay. No, that's not this guy. So it wasn't that guy. Then she meets this other guy. She's like, this is it. We prayed together. The pastor said he's the one. Jesus spoke, all this stuff, but we're not going to do anything until we get married. So my sister ends up, I fly to Brazil for the wedding. My sister ends up like getting married on paper the day before the religious ceremony. So they go to the courthouse and do the paperwork. And apparently, right after they got married, he says to her, I have something to tell you. And she goes, okay. And he goes, I have a micro penis. And then she just starts laughing. She's like, stop it. You're joking. And he goes, I'm not joking.
How do
Yeah,
you not even touch it or see it before getting married? That's crazy.
I agree. 100%. So she marries a guy. I cried the entire ceremony because I met his whole family then. I'm like, how is my sister marrying this guy? What is happening? It was a born again wedding. So you have to be in the church and there's no alcohol. Like my mother and I have
Oh,
a flask and we're like pouring into our drinks.
that's
Like
seriously, good God.
I cried so much at that wedding that I was hiccuping at that like altar and her friends afterwards came to me. It's like, are you okay? Something wrong? Why did you cry so much? And I'm like, I'm just emotional. But meanwhile,
That's
I'm just standing there
good.
looking. My sister was the most beautiful, smartest like girl I've ever seen. You know, like
Mhm.
unlike me, she's blonde and blue-eyed and gorgeous. And growing up in Brazil, you know, like being blonde and blue-eyed was like a whole thing. It made you
Yeah.
exotic and like so. You know, and she was older and she had cool friends.